What's up, Internet? So I've recently been asked about the Digimon Card Game and how to get into it, and I feel like I've answered this question multiple times in the past, and looking into it, I've noticed that there still hasn't really been a good video reference guide or like a primer on how to get into the game for new and interested players. So hopefully I'm going to try to answer this today in just one solid video that will give you information on where to go from here. This is kind of an impromptu guide. I've just kind of just made this on my own today, like on a whim. And the goal of this is to get players where they need to be based on what they want to know. So we're going to be going over a couple of things on how to get started with the game and things you need to know, where to find information about products and how to get your hands on the products if at all possible, and finally, where to go from here, where to find news, where to find more players, how to get games in, things like that. So we're going to talk about pretty much everything I know at the time. It's currently January 2nd of 2021, so the game isn't even out in America yet, which is actually something we should talk about since we're going to get started on this. But just know that things may change in the future. So before we get really into it, I have to start off by saying that the game actually came out in March 23rd of 2020 in Japan. So it actually had a roughly 8 to 9 month head start compared to the rest of the world. And it got announced that it would be coming to America and other countries as well sometime like mid-2020. The game actually is not out yet. And actually, if you could see by this right here, it's going to be on sale this month. I believe the 28th of January is when it officially launches. But there was a special pre-release event that happened in November where a lot of players were able to get the cards ahead of time and play in early tournaments and stuff like that. So don't be surprised if you see people who already own these cards, and if the prices are higher than normal, it's potentially because, well, there was a limited supply run and the game actually comes out on sometime this month. With that being said, I do want to talk about the products themselves and like how to get a hold of it at some point. So we're going to cover that. But before, a lot of you guys are probably wondering, how the heck do I even play the game? I'm curious on like what to do. And with that, there are two really good resources to like learn how to play the game to see if you're even interested. And the first one, in my opinion, what's probably the best one to at least just see if you're interested and what got me playing, is the tutorial app. So this tutorial app gives you half of a starter deck and you play against an AI against various situations. And in my opinion, it's the best way to see if this game is even right for you. I actually downloaded this on a whim and it's what got me interested in playing the game. So it's available on iOS and Android. Give it a shot. It's totally free. There's no harm in trying it. And it just teaches you like the basic system mechanics of the game, and if that's enough for you to get interested, then I would recommend maybe just going on YouTube and then finding a more comprehensive guide. And that, the best one I found so far is by a guy named True Champion Steven, and he has like a 30-minute guide on everything you need to know about the base game. This is probably the best one to... in my opinion, it's the best like put together one. There's a couple of others out there that are a little sloppier than this, but this is just easiest to understand. And True Champion Steven as a whole has some good content for just gameplay videos and like early discussions and reviews and deck techs and things like that, which we'll talk about later. I'll be honest, aside from his like how to play thing, I don't really care for his content. He's a good enough guy, he's a great dude, but his content doesn't speak to me personally, no offense to him. But not everyone's stuff is meant for everyone. But he is a solid content creator. So, anyways, those are two places to learn how to like play the game and get interested in it, and then determine if the game is really right for you. And then at that point, if you decide, hey, you know what, I really like this game and I want to learn more about it and I want to play more games and I want to get a hold of the cards. This is where we kind of go more into the products themselves and attaining them in paper. We'll talk about online clients as well. But, okay, this is where things get really weird. And I have to talk about the release of this game because it's not normal, nor is it really clear. So, the game has, at current, there are 4 major expansions to the game. So they're called booster sets. So you'll hear them as booster set 1 or BT1, BT2, BT3, and etc. And in Japan, they just recently got their 4th set. America is weird because we're playing catch up, and if anybody has played a card game before, you know that there are effectively 2 styles of release schedules. There's either a global launch where everybody gets the cards at the same time, or there is a staggered launch. And Yu-Gi-Oh has a term OCG, or official card game, where in this case Japan would get their cards months in advance, and Pokemon does this too, I believe. At least they did. But they get their cards months in advance, and then the States and the rest of the world gets things months later, usually in a combined or a staggered release. So Digimon does that. As a result of that, we're getting a weird setup. So what we're getting is a special booster in January. And actually, I don't know if I can click on this. But what we're getting is effectively a mix of... Oh, that's not what I want. But we're getting a mix of all 3 booster sets put together and a couple of extra cards thrown in. So the idea is that in January, we're going to get something called Special Booster 1.0, and then in February, we're going to get Special Booster 1.5. And each of those special boosters are all 3 of the original Japanese booster sets split into 2. So it's kind of weird. Like, actually, this is another website, which I'll show you guys here momentarily, but here we see that we've got this is this is booster set 1 in Japan, booster set 2, and booster set 3. We are getting all 3 of these guys, but divvied up into some weird combination of special booster 1.0, special booster 1.5. So in January, we're going to have all of these cards present here, which is, I don't want to say all of the Japanese booster set 1, because that's not true. What the heck? Sorry, pardon the noise. But we're getting a mix of some of those, and then we're also getting a mix of like some other cards in booster sets 2 and 3. But just know that in January, we're getting these cards here, and then in February, we'll be getting the remaining cards from what we didn't receive in booster sets 1, 2, and 3. And then from there, moving forward, we just get what Japan has already got. I actually have no idea how to go back to this. But Japan just got booster set 4. This guy will be getting that in May, and then from then on out, we'll basically be getting exactly what Japan gets, except just a little bit later down the line. There are also starter decks as well, which there are 3 of them currently that are in America. So there's the red one, the blue, and the yellow one. They do have exclusive cards. The starter decks are actually pretty good as a baseline, which is weird if you come from the world of like Magic the Gathering, like myself. You'll know that usually starter decks are not great. And then there's a bunch of other weird things too. There's promo packs that you get by participating in events. There are dash packs that you get by buying packs of 12 cards. And then a couple of other things. The release is weird. It's very strange, and I know that like was probably not the best way to start this off. But the point I was trying to get at is at some point we'll be receiving all of the cards that Japan gets. We're getting them in staggered and kind of later releases. And also getting the product is kind of hard if you're this late into the game. The special the special pre-release stuff obviously has been sold out already. Pre-orders for Special Booster 1.0, which is the January set we're getting, is already very difficult to get. Most places are already sold out. You may have to contact your local game stores to see if you can get them. And on that note, you can actually see a list of participating game stores somewhere on this website, which I'm going to link you guys to. I haven't really messed with the website in a little bit, so I don't know exactly where things are, but the news panel is pretty good for you to see what all is going on. And there's a link, which I'll find and put in there to see if your local game store is participating, but obviously you can just call in and see if they can get special orders. Getting these products are going to be a little difficult at this point in time without paying substantially more. There have been rumors that the supply chain has been cut off already for the January release, so your mileage may vary when it comes to actually physically acquiring these cards. So just a heads up. So that was a lot about the weird release, but I feel like it's important for you to know because that actually changes some things about the meta and like learning to play the game, because we've effectively got an English meta and then we've got a Japanese meta where the English meta currently consists of the already released 1.0 cards and like the starter decks and stuff, and then the Japanese meta is everything else. And that actually does affect how you want to play the game, which is why I'm bringing this up. So, a couple of things about just the game, right? So you've played the game now at this point. You understand what the cards or what the card releases are like, but now you want to know more about, like, okay, I want to learn how to build my own decks. I want to learn to see what's popular, what's the meta like, and things like that. And to that point, we're going to go ahead and go to DigimonCard.dev. This is a deck builder. You can actually go in here and then you can create your own deck list. You can look at existing cards. So you can click on a set. You can choose to see what cards have been released in English already or what cards are available just in general. So you can like toggle back and forth. And then this will cycle and load itself. So now you can see all the cards that are going to be out eventually. These are the things that are out in Japan. You can see, like if you go to a deck list here, like let's go to my favorite deck. So here, actually this is an old version of my favorite deck, but who cares? But here you can see like, okay, well, pretty much like any other deck builder, you can go and you can look at stats, you can look at the cards themselves, and etc., etc. So this is where you would go to actually build a deck and look at your own stats if you're trying to create something on your own, or if you're trying to just put it together a list in general. This is a good place to look into. And there's also like a rule book and some other things. This is a really good place if you're the type of person who just likes to look at raw cards. It's very useful for that. There are also, there is a section where like people can post their own decks, like under this deck section here. I don't know how often it's used. I think the community, the community uses it from time to time. The tournament one has not been updated in a while, so I would kind of stray away from the tournament deck section. Unless you're like messing with specifically 1.0 stuff, then I guess it's okay. But generally, you can just look to see what the community is building as well if you're curious. But if you're curious on it, that brings me to this other website called DigimonMeta.com. This is a fantastic website to show you what decks are currently prevalent, what kind of archetypes to expect, and they do really good breakdowns on things. So like if you're curious on, again, like my favorite deck, which is Imperial Dramon, you can click on this list here, and then it'll show up the deck itself, what it does, how like the mechanics of the deck work, the core engine, things that you can mess with, support cards, etc. It's really good if you just want to learn about various archetypes and what they do, kind of finding out what you might like as a player. But then also there are reviews that people write, and then there is a section as well where you can go to, I want to say it's decks, yeah. You can go to decks, and then you can actually see what has been placing. So you can sort by date, you can see what placement somebody did in a tournament, and then you can actually click on the deck and then look at the full list as well. So this is a really good place to kind of get familiar with what's actually being played right now, and then for you to kind of tweak things however you like. It's also another good spot for you to look at rulings. So there's like an FAQ section here that tells you a lot about just the game in general, how to set up the game, if you have like just generic questions. But then if you have more specific ones, there's a translated guide here for each specific booster set about certain interactions. Because if you've come from the world of like Magic the Gathering, you've kind of been spoiled by having a giant rule book with like every potential scenario ever. It's like reading a legal document. This game has some more ambiguous rulings that you may be pulling this up from time to time to try to figure out what exactly is going on, because the translations aren't as fluid as something like, say, Magic. So you may be using this glossary quite a bit. But on the terms, we'll talk about glossaries a little bit more later because there's more stuff in the Discord here too. But this is, from here, this is where you would go to look to see what decks are currently being made. And maybe if you want to brew your own, then you could feel free to go ahead and jump in here too. So, from here, the last bits that I want to talk about is going to be the community, the news, and then finally like where to get games in. So, at this point now, you've played the game, you've built your own decks, and you want to know where to get games in. And with that, there are more like four major places to go and get games. The first like gathering hall that everyone's going to go into is this Digimon TCG Discord. This is kind of like the central hub for everything Digimon from kind of here on out. Once you've learned everything that you need to know to catch up on news and to get some games in, you're probably going to be in here. And from here, there is a channel down below where you can get matchmaking. And there's a bunch of stuff. And actually, this is a good place for me to talk about the various ways that you can actually play this game. The first and obvious one is going to be tabletop, where if you have like paper cards, you're going to go and find a match in here. You can just say like, hey, I'm trying to get a game in. Who wants to go to one of these rooms down below, and we can go get some games. And this is where people are just talking about where to play the game. Pretty self-explanatory. If you've ever played webcam, really any webcam card game, you just stick a tripod down and you just look down and you play the game. That one, you'll probably find more people playing like 1.0 and more English cards because that's just kind of what's out right now. The other popular ones are going to be Octagon and Untap. Octagon is a standalone client in which you can download a plugin and play the game with a slightly more fluid way to play. I've tried it. I don't like the setup of it personally, but it's way more not user friendly, but it's way more fluid once you get it set up and going. I just didn't take the time to set it up, if we're gonna be honest. There is also Tabletop Simulator, which a lot of people have been playing a lot less of because of the last two options, which we'll talk about later. Hey, cat, get out of here. Sorry. Tabletop Simulator, people still do and they still mess with. If you're familiar with Tabletop Simulator, there is also a Steam community mod, which you can just download and install and play it that way. The way that I like to play is with Untap. Oh, Tabletop Simulator is... I'm so dumb. Webcam is what I was talking about first, and Tabletop Simulator is still present. So people still play it. I use Untap just because it's the easiest to get going. It's not exactly the prettiest, if I'm going to be honest with you. In fact, I actually have it pulled open here. But it's accessible through a web browser, which I find very convenient. And it's just easy to jump in and get a game going. The problem with Untap, though, is that there is zero rule enforcement. So that means that you and your opponent are responsible for keeping track of what's going on and basically being rules lawyers to each other. So exactly how you would in like in person. If somebody does a misplay, then you have to make sure that you guys are watching the rules and being accountable, and you have to use the chat and stuff like that. But it's just so easy to get a game in. It's easy to just look at and figure out like, oh, hey, what's this card? What's that card? Blah, blah, blah. So if you want to like a little more hassle-free way, this is probably the easiest to get into. But there are some annoying quirks, like remembering where all the buttons are. You can't move all of the cards at once. So Digimon, like, you have like stacks of Digimon, like you can see here, like this guy's evolved. You have to move each card individually, which is kind of a pain in the butt. But it's my favorite way to play, just because it's easy to get in and get out. But that being said, there are two other ways to play. And that is Chrono Battle, which some guy made... some community member made a Unity client that effectively plays the game kind of similar to like we would with like Magic the Gathering Arena or like Hearthstone or one of those other digital clients. And then there's also a fan-made project by a guy named A Bit Nerd, and that project admittedly looks prettier and runs a little better and has better matchmaking. However, both of these suffer currently in that they only have the Japanese booster set 1 and the first 3 starter decks. So they don't even have all of the cards that are available in English yet. So there are cards that are in the English special booster 1.0 that are not in the Japanese booster set 1 because they're present in booster sets 2 and 3. So if you learn to play the game and you're like, oh dude, I want to play like the English meta and I just want to get rid of all these cards, these two options here, as great and as user-friendly as they are, don't have all the cards yet. So people are kind of using it with more patience and doing it for more like debugging purposes than actually matchmaking, but you can find matches in here. The best way is, I would say, Tabletop Simulator, Octagon, Untap. Those are the 3 big ones to go into if you don't have paper cards yet. If you do have paper cards, I encourage you to play webcam because it's super fun. So, that's the community. There are a couple of other community resources. There is the Facebook group, which you can use to... people really just talk about random jargon in here. The Facebook group is a little strange, to say the least, because you can find good information in here, especially about tournaments. If you want to participate in tournaments, the Facebook group is a really good place to do that. And then really just about like community rumblings and stuff, but kind of similar to what you would imagine from like any Facebook group. The people get a little, I don't want to use the word toxic because that's like a buzzword. If you say the word toxic in here, people go nuts. But it's a Facebook group, like what do you expect? But it's cool to like kind of keep your eye out on and just see what's going on in the community. This is the fan-made Digimon project. It looks pretty cool. There are some bugs, but again, it has a good user interface. honestly, I hope personally that this is going to be the future of the game, because Bandai won't make their own client. I hope that this client takes off at some point when all the cards are in, but it's a little too early for that. And then there is also a subreddit as well. The subreddits, you can go and just see, again, what the community is going on about. The subreddit is not as active as other card game subreddits, and it's a lot of people asking the same stuff about how to do X, Y, or Z. Where can I find this product? Look at this product I just opened, etc., etc. Which, again, it's fine, and it's good for like news and tournament results and stuff. But ultimately, the biggest place that I would go into is the Discord, again, because the Discord has pretty much everything you need. There is like this. Oh man, this TCG rules and FAQs. There are translated rules and guides in here to show specific interactions. I've actually used this a lot because there are some interactions that aren't properly explained in English yet, and this goes over it. But there's also like leaks and reveals, so you can actually see like what's going on. Like with the new releases in Japan, you can see what content creators are doing, and from time to time you actually might see myself in there whenever I decide to put something in there. So you can see like announcements with whatever the community is doing. And then there's also promotions, which is where content creators will go to plug their own stuff. Ultimately, the Discord is the best place to get the information once you kind of establish yourself as a player. This is where I spend most of my time. Even on my own personal channel, I have the leaks and reveals like automatically just spitting out on my own channel just to see what's going on. This place is great. Final things, as far as like content creators, if you're curious on where to find like good resources, again, I mentioned True Champion Steven. He actually has like really good content. As far as like if you're like me and you just want straight gameplay, I don't know these guys' names. I'm gonna link them down below, but their gameplay video is called like Left Arm, Right Arm. Like that's their names. I'm just gonna skip to like a random segment. But like Left Arm and Right Arm, if you turn on like the captions and stuff, like the YouTube captions, if you just want to watch like just straight gameplay about like popular meta decks or even just like fun brews that they make, these guys are entertaining enough for me to just stay engaged. There's also another YouTube channel called Card Protagonist, which this guy is very popular and very anime. Like I'm talking, they do like the weird anime like grunts and like mindless jabber in between turns and stuff, like they're like in the Digimon world and stuff, and it's as cringe as it is, for whatever reason, it is mildly entertaining, and the gameplay itself is pretty good too. There's a bunch of other content creators as well, but those are like the big ones that I usually see thrown around. There's a dude named Zenitsu as well, who does more of like news roundups and like prediction videos and stuff like that. He does like deck techs as well, but like the more I got into it, the more I realized that, you know, you could just go on Discord and find the same information. Again, no shade to anybody, any content creator. Content creators are going to hate me now for saying this. But those are the ones that I personally like. And then from there, I think that's kind of everything you need to know about the game as a whole. A couple of other small notes. The official Digimon Card Game website is world.digimon.com. There is one called en.digimoncard.com, and that's actually the Japanese version of the card game translated in English. So all of us international people will be using World instead. Use the official website to kind of get a roundup on what's going on in the future. So you can see here, the page I'm on right now is telling you, hey, for Special Booster 1.5 in February, here's all the stuff that you can get if you pre-order. So you can get like the box toppers. We're doing these special promotional packs that are available inside with everything as well. There are these things called dash packs. Well, every 12 packs you buy, you get a special thing that's guaranteed one of these 5 cards. And by the way, for 1.5, all you want is Blitzgreymon, screw the rest. But there's all these other like special promo packs and stuff. Like the official website is a really good place for you to learn about the game as a whole. And I think that's everything. So I know it's a lot. There's probably some stuff I didn't cover. It's a very strange game to get into because the game isn't even officially out in English yet. But once it is, hopefully the resources will be a little more streamlined down the road. But this should give you everything you need to know. From here, you should know how to play the game, how to build your own decks, where to go to start brewing, where to see the meta, to see what the community is up to, see news. Everything you need is here. hopefully I've been some help. I'm going to post a link to everything down below in this description. Pardon me if I offended anybody or if I've left out some critical information. Maybe there's somebody in the comment section that will hopefully answer that. And yeah, show this to anybody who is interested in the game and they want to know where to go from here and you're kind of tired of saying the same thing over and over and over again. With that being said, feel free to join me on Twitch whenever you see me playing the card game. Feel free to join me in Discord if you see my promotional things or even in my YouTube channel. I do love this game a lot and I want to see it grow and I want to see more people play, which means that I would love to get games in with people. So, I've been talking my head off. Hopefully this has been of some help, and I hope to see you guys around. It's been fun. Peace.